Welcome everyone to today's workbook discussion on Zoom. Welcome also to all who join us later by watching or listening to this recording. I'm Laura Fenimore, the Chief Development Officer and Volunteer Coordinator with the Foundation for Inner Peace, the scribe authorized publisher of A Course in Miracles. We really appreciate your partnership with the Foundation. And if you want to learn more about the Foundation or A Course in Miracles, please visit acim.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit acim.org, and at the top of the page, you will find the word donate. All donations support the work of the Foundation. Each session will be delving into a discussion of the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, led by a moderator team of volunteers that work with the Foundation. What does discussion mean? In our gatherings here, we welcome the Holy Spirit to join us. Through this presence, our meeting becomes a joining of equals to commune with the Holy Spirit's guidance to experience miracles together. Some of the moderators here also support our social media channels, and if you'd like a list of FIP resources, please email support@acim.org, and we'll be happy to share the resource list with you. Now let's begin our discussion.
Hi there. Go ahead, Stephanie.
So we'll review the guidelines. First of all, I just want to say I'm so grateful to be here with my mighty companions studying A Course in Miracles. There's nothing I would rather be doing. So the Foundation for Inner Peace encourages the following to foster a safe and positive space. We embrace kindness and respect. Focus on the Course. Share openly and respectfully. Welcome the Holy Spirit. And everyone knows that this session will be recorded. Did we already start recording? We did. Okay. And let's work together on learning A Course in Miracles. So let's just take a couple of minutes to center and quiet our minds. If you'd like, you can roll your shoulders. Sometimes we hold stress, tension in our shoulders. And if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes and take some very deep and calming breaths while I read the following prayer from lesson 245. Your peace is with me, Father. I am safe. Your peace surrounds me, Father. Where I go, your peace goes there with me. It sheds its light on everyone I meet. I bring it to the desolate and lonely and afraid. I give your peace to those who suffer pain or grieve for loss or think that they are bereft of hope and happiness. Send them to me, my Father. Let me bring your peace with me. For I would save your Son, as is your will, that I may come to recognize myself. So we welcome the Holy Spirit to guide us together, and we will start our discussion of lesson 102.
Coming up.
No rush. We're here.
Here it is. Okay.
So I would like to read the title and the first sentence of each paragraph, and then we'll have some readers read the whole lesson, and then we'll discuss it. We'll go paragraph by paragraph. Lesson 102. I share God's will for happiness for me. Paragraph 1. You do not want to suffer. Paragraph 2. Today we will try to loose its weakened hold still further and to realize that pain is purposeless, without a cause and with no power to accomplish anything. Paragraph 3. For several days, we will continue to devote our periods of practicing to exercises planned to help you reach the happiness God's will has placed in you. And paragraph 4, I'm going to read the quote. Begin your practice periods today with this acceptance of God's will for you. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. And the first sentence for paragraph 5, be happy, for your only function here is happiness. Thank you. So now I believe Eileen and Marguerite, and if I'm saying your name incorrectly, please tell me. They're going to take turns reading each paragraph.
I share God's will for happiness for me. Paragraph 1. You do not want to suffer. You may think it buys you something and may still believe a little that it buys you what you want. Yet this belief is surely shaken now, at least enough to let you question it and to suspect it really makes no sense. It has not gone as yet, but lacks the roots that once secured it tightly to the dark and hidden secret places of your mind. Pass.
Today, we try to loose its weakened hold still further and to realize that pain is purposeless, without a cause and with no power to accomplish anything. It cannot purchase anything at all. It offers nothing and does not exist. And everything you think it offers you is lacking in existence, like itself. You have been slave to nothing. Be you free today to join the happy will of God.
Paragraph 3. For several days, we will continue to devote our periods of practicing to exercises planned to help you reach the happiness God's will has placed in you. Here is your home, and here your safety is. Here is your peace, and here there is no fear. Here is salvation. Here is rest at last.
Begin your practice periods today with this acceptance of God's will for you. I share God's will for happiness for me, and I accept it as my function now. Then seek this function deep within your mind, for it is there, awaiting but your choice. You cannot fail to find it when you learn it is your choice and that you share God's will.
Paragraph 5. Be happy, for your only function here is happiness. You have no need to be less loving to God's Son than he whose love created him as loving as himself. Besides, these hourly 5-minute rests, pause frequently today to tell yourself that you have now accepted happiness as your one function, and be sure that you are joining with God's will in doing this.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'll just start by asking if anybody has a comment they want to make at this time. And I think, there we go. So. Jerry, your hand's up?
Yes, just briefly, I think that regardless of the picture in the dream, the outside circumstances, there's an inner happiness that is available by my decision, my choice. And I can make that decision in alignment with God's will, which is my will, and that is happiness and love. I think that they probably are synonymous in this case. So lovingly, happily, I may perceive the outside as the dream. My position in the dream would be more lucid and with the clarity of mind of Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So, Jerry, what stood out to me was the relation you made of being loving and being happy. Because I think a lot of times we think happiness is going to come to us from out there, from something we think we want. So, and I don't know who was next, if it was, thank you, if it was Sora or Peter. So, Sora and then Peter.
Okay. So two images came to mind. I had this thought about, oh, all it's saying is you can be carefree. And the image was the Fool and the Tarot cards. And if you've ever seen the card, it's like a vagabond kind of guy with, you know, his knapsack over his shoulder. And he's about to jump, you know, step off the edge of a precipice. And he's uncaring. He's not even looking down. He's looking up. And the meaning, I mean, everybody has, or there's probably a gazillion meanings, but the meaning that I always thought of when I look at the card is, oh, it's the number is 0, and that's God. You know, it's an image for God. Just like go for it, because you are a child of God, and nothing, you can be carefree. The other image, I'll make this fast. One of the Indiana Jones's movies, the one with Sean Connery plays his father and he's looking for the Holy Grail. And again, he comes to the edge of a precipice, and he's supposed to get to the other side. And there's, you know, it's a bottomless cavern or chasm, and how's he going to get to the other side? And he reads the instructions, and it talks about a leap of faith. And so he takes a step, and a bridge unfolds, and he's able to get to the other side. So that's what this was talking about to me. You don't have to suffer. Of course, I'm Jewish, you know, I know what suffering is, and that's a joke. So, but very important for me to right now to think in terms of being able to be carefree. And then there's the trust. Just keep trusting. That's it.
So, Sora, one of the things that came to my mind as you were speaking was we need to have the willingness, and once we have the willingness, then all is possible.
A little willingness.
A little willingness.
A little willingness. That's
Hey.
all, right? Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, so what jumps out at me, the first paragraph, first sentence, you do not want to suffer. You may think it buys you something and may still believe a little that it buys you what you want. Then the second paragraph, today we try to loose the weakened hold still further to realize that pain is purposeless, without a cause, and with no power to accomplish anything. So what is it in my deluded egoic mind that I think suffering and pain buys me?
Mm.
Well, in my deluded mind, it buys me innocence, right? Because if I'm suffering and if I'm in pain, then it couldn't be my fault. I can't be responsible, right? And he even says that somewhere in the course. He talks about the idea that, well, I'll paraphrase it in some way, but it's basically the idea that the way we prove our innocence in the land of the ego is by suffering and sacrificing and being in pain, right? And so that's supposed to say, well, God, don't look at me, look at him. It's his fault, right? Because look, I'm suffering. I couldn't possibly be responsible for this. Why would I do this to myself? I think that's what he's talking about here. And the invitation is to let all that crap go, right? Realize pain is purposeless, without a cause and with no power to accomplish anything. It cannot purchase anything at all. It offers nothing and does not exist. But here's the thing, then we're in a vacuum, right? If we get rid of suffering and pain, now there's a huge gap in our lives as an ego, right? So I got to fill it with something. And the suggestion here is that we fill it with God's will for happiness for us. But I have to believe I'm innocent in order to be happy. You know, I have to believe what he tells us, which is God's son is guiltless and I am God's son. Without that, this whole thing unravels pretty quickly.
What's interesting to me about what you said, Peter, is you spoke about innocence, where we could feel innocent through the ego because we're suffering, or we can welcome, this is what I was getting anyway, if I'm wrong, please correct me, or we could welcome happiness and trust of spirit and God through the Holy Self. So it's, where's our innocent? You know, we have to decide. Does that make sense or no?
Well, it does. But I would say this too. I mean, according to the ego, we have to earn happiness.
Right. I absolutely.
Happiness is not just something that we have.
Right.
And it's in the earning. It's usually in the earning that we have to sacrifice or suffer to be happy.
Right.
Yeah, that's the mentality. That's the mindset of the ego.
Yeah.
You can't just be happy. I've got to earn it. And usually the way I earn it is by suffering and sacrifice. So, you know, this is really, the Course says it aims at a complete reversal of thought. Well, this is one of those, you know, where this idea, we got to earn it. We got to suffer. We got to sacrifice. We got to prove our innocence, instead of just understanding that is how God created us. There is nothing to earn. There is nothing to sacrifice. There is nothing to suffer through. Thanks.
Thank you. Megan, I saw your hand. Did you change your mind? Maybe she'll come back later. Bernie?
Thank you. Just to kind of go through a little bit about what Peter said. The suffering puts us in a place of victimhood. And the Course talks about being the victim many times. And the flip side of the victim is the aggressor. And either way, it's about getting. And through that whole experience, what we're doing is we're seeking. And the Course that often says, you know, the ego seeks but never finds. So we can seek, we get caught up in the seeking for happiness rather than being happy. You know, we're trying to do happiness instead of being it. And that's where, you know, that's where when we do the correction, that there's, you know, the pain, the suffering, the victimhood, the aggression, all is, it's purposeless, it's useless. Agree that, you know, that we are left in a void. So what is that? And that void is the awareness of our loving self. You know, we move through the clouds of distraction of it being out there to come back into that light within us, you know, the light that we are within. And so from that light within, then we recognize the love that we are. And from there are a few places that the Course says that happiness and joy and peace are subsets of being loving. So our focus is on being love, being the light, being the expression of what we're created as. And we don't have to do anything to be happy. We don't have to do anything to get happiness. It's just there, emanating, exuding from us. So we can open ourselves to that realization. We're just in that place of loving, happy, joyful peacefulness.
So Bernie, one of the things that came to me as you were speaking is, before I studied the Course, I felt I had to work hard for what I wanted, for my happiness. And what a great gift to know that it is our right. It is our God-given right. And all we have to do is like get out of the way. But I mean, that's, you know, that is some work. Thank you, Bernie. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Bernie?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Uma, would you like to comment?
Hi, it's so valuable for me for someone to define or something, which Peter just did, because I was sitting here going, like, what do I think I'm buying? I was sitting here suffering. What do I think I'm buying? And when he said innocence, the whole thing popped because that's what it was. I
Excellent.
thought I was buying my innocence. And the other thing he said a couple of weeks ago was, well, let's be very clear. This is all in my mind, and that really struck me. And yesterday, or 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, I was suffering and creating other manifestations in my form that what? And so I pulled out the book, healing book there and I opened up. It said, resolve all things into thoughts, which is the same. So I did. I resolved, the pain went away. Pain's just a thought. This was physical pain, resolved it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, that was powerful. Would anybody else like to comment at this time? Okay, how about if we go, Marguerite?
Yeah, I was just going to say what I love is that our job is to be happy. I mean, I always want to know what the heck's my purpose here, right? He tells us very clear, look, this is your job. So I love my job. Makes it really easy. That's why I don't do pain. So we sometimes overlook that, right? But that's your function. He's telling you that's your purpose. Be happy. That now there's a lot that there's a lot of obstacles, but once we understand that that's what we're doing, that's our function here, then the motivation to remove those obstacles becomes greater and greater because we then see that sharp contrast. So just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you. So you reminded me of something, Marguerite. When I was growing up, my father used to say, first you laugh and then you cry. And it was like, I felt like we weren't really supposed to be happy. And I think as I'm listening to what everybody's saying and what you just said, it seemed that I shouldn't be happy because I should be serious. Happiness was in some way against seriousness and against being effective in life. So you've got to, and this is just a totally different point of view, which I love. So thank you for what you said. You spurred that. Go ahead, Margaret.
I would just like to add to that, given where we are today and these times, because for me, it's taking these lessons and really using them where we are. There's a lot of fear in the world. There's a lot of stuff going on. And our job, if we really, really understand it, is to show the alternative to the illusion. And so don't be afraid to be joyful. Don't be afraid to be happy. This is why we've come. We are here to show there is another way. So don't get caught. Don't feel you're being irreverent or disrespectful to those that are in pain. No, show them through your joy that God is real and you have the power of decision to bring that to reality right here, right now. No one can take that away from you. So be joyful, be happy, be loving. And it doesn't mean you're not compassionate. But you don't need to go into their suffering. You could understand, but you're going to try to lift them, pull them, and give them an example that they have the power of decision. And no one, regardless of the circumstances and how dark everything seems, can take that from you. So that's really important. That's your job. And we're being called right now to really, really step up to it.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful job. And we know we're attracted to people that are happy too. So it's not like it's them and us, it's all of us, but we may have a certain awareness that is magnificent. Okay, thank you so much. And Sora?
Yeah, the thing that came to mind is a teaching that I'm sure many of you are aware of. what the pain and suffering is the reliving of or repeating of that initial pain of separation. That like we were born into ego was born into existential angst. That to all of a sudden think, oh my God, I'm there is no God, or I'm separate, or falling into an abyss. And that's the moment we keep repeating over and over and over. And we think, so the point, and maybe, like I said, some of you are aware of this, or it, or can quote chapter and verse. We're just repeating that original pain of separation. And that we were born into. So it's deep. That's the other point. It's deep. That's why we need so many reminders to be happy.
Thank you, Sora. Megan?
So I understand the lesson is that our function is joy, but I also, just listening to people talk, recognize that there are some fundamental things that are going on for people where trying to affect them in a joyful way will hurt them. You don't need to get into their stuff, but you do need to allow for them to have feelings that you do not possess. So for me, that state is when I exist in a calm and I try to stay as connected and firm, like roots of trees, they make you feel very solid. So I don't need to get into anybody's stuff, but I don't need to throw joy at them. I don't need to be the face of joy that compels them to go deeper into something they're doing. But what I can do is be there and be solid in my belief that things will happen as they will, whether we agree or don't agree. But in those times, my function is not to try to impress upon the world the joyfulness, but to allow for things to go on and for me to be stable in whatever is going on in front of me. Thanks.
Thank you, Megan. I think what I'm getting to is you're talking about being a presence and being authentic. And I think that could show up a lot of different ways. It could show up calm, it could show up excited, but I also think we're talking about modeling that presence, that confidence in our connection and love for God. So when I was studying this lesson today, preparing, one of the things that came to me, which probably should have come to me years ago, is that I created the fear. I think you were just saying this, Sora. I created the fear by my separation, and I can heal the fear. And that's one of the lessons. What is the lesson for today? Isn't it like I am responsible? I forgot exactly how it is. Wait, I can find it quickly.
My salvation comes from me.
Yeah, my salvation comes from me. I created the fear, and I could heal the fear through not separation, but through my connection to God. And as Megan said too, through welcoming and accepting this person that we're interacting with, or the group or whatever. So did I get it right, Megan?
Yeah, I think that I'd like to talk about when people are running around with their hands in the air and their hair on fire. It's like it doesn't help for you to join in with your hair on fire, the hands up the air, hair on fire, because if your energy is calm, knowing that things are working out the way they will, that what we see in the illusion is experienced in the illusion in difficult ways and difficult times and stuff like that. And so to try to, I guess, change somebody's illusion is actually harmful. To allow their illusion to happen and to be there as as a guide in that it's not affecting you, and that eventually they will get back to where you are. That for me is the supportive way that I can be. Thanks.
All right.
I feel I need to respond, if you don't mind, Stephanie.
Go ahead.
To clarify, so Megan, everything you said, I totally agree with. And maybe you misunderstood me. It's not a time to play small. And it's okay to feel joy in these times. But it also takes discernment. I'm not going to be in front of somebody who's suffering and say, oh, all you need to do is be happy. That's ignorance on my part. That's increasing their fear. So no, discernment is wisdom, and you know when. But the point is, don't hide your light in these times. Use discernment. Feel out what it is the other person needs, just as you said. If it's a calm presence, you're not adding to their fear. You're not fueling the fire. And at the same time, you're not going to do something that's so abrupt that causes more fear. But as we stay in presence, we'll be guided. The point is, don't play small. It's okay to feel joy, regardless of what's occurring in the environment. So I totally respect everything you said, but I think you might have misunderstood. I'm not going to be a bliss in any disregarding someone else's pain. In fact, you're more sensitive to it, and you're holding the space and acting. The Holy Spirit's acting through you. But it's okay to be happy in these times.
So I just want to,
Thank you.
I heard what both of you said is going along with each other. And just to put one more sentence into it, I think you're both saying it's not about managing other people. It's not about trying to control other people. We're controlling ourselves by being free to be happy and grateful. And there's people that want to speak, so I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah.
So I think, Jerry, you had your hand up first. And then Bernie, and then Uma, and then Bill.
Okay, great conversation. And I am guided to drop the F-bomb. So, fair warning, the F-bomb, of course, is forgiveness. Lesson 122, forgiveness offers everything I want. What could you want forgiveness cannot give? Do you want peace? Forgiveness offers it. Do you want happiness? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All this forgiveness offers you and more. And then it says, here's the answer. Would you stand outside while all of heaven waits for you within? Forgive and be forgiven. As you give, you will receive. There's no plan but this for salvation of the Son of God. So, yeah, it's easy enough, and I've fallen prey to this, to run around with my hands up in the air, and if I had hair, it would be on fire. Honestly, I fell into that last night with my wife concerning the stock market. And it's really interesting because it gave me again a classroom opportunity to look at the miracleness of forgiveness, of that which is not happening, has no power to affect me because there's no cause to this seeming effect or illusion. I'm just so grateful that I can turn to the Holy Spirit or Jeshua within my mind and elevate above the battleground of this silly stock market, which, I've put so much attention and worry and up and down roller coastering on. And I continue to do that. So there's a pattern. And where I've chosen incorrectly, I have another opportunity to forgive. Now, does that include what may seem to be the cause of the roller coaster of the stock market? You bet. It's a brother that I'm condemning. And wherever there's condemnation, I better go back into my curriculum and remember my precious F-bomb. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So, Jerry, I think it's great that you made the connection between forgiveness and our being happy. Because it's like, forgive, 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 So I think Bernie is next.
Thank you, Stephanie, and Jerry, because yes, it is forgiveness that causes the shift until we're ready to do that. And the thing that came to mind, a couple comments. So around the light, I'll come to the light in a minute, but what came up last week while this meeting was on, I was in a mall in Arizona in Tempe, and the fellow came up and started talking to me about his Christian beliefs. And he was determined that we are born in sin and we die in sin, and that we're conditioned. And he also went on to say that infants and babies are deceitful. And I had to call him out and question him on that. Now, he was not really ready or willing to question his belief in what sin is and the belief around that until I asked him to describe what that was. And he said it's missing the mark. And the question then became, how do we miss the mark? Or, when we're missing the mark, what do? We forgive ourselves and move forward once again. And with all of the commentary that went back and forth, the thing is, he's caught up in that darkness and wanting to keep his door closed so that the light could not come in. And people are afraid, people are afraid of darkness. People are also afraid of light, because if there's light, then what does that mean for us if what we've held on to is not certain any longer? Quick example is if you're caught up if you're in a dark room and the door opens and it's bright and sunny, we kind of pull back from the light for a moment until our eyes can adjust. So we do need to honor the light and where people are at. And I agree, we don't need to dim ourselves. We just need to invite people into the light as much as they're ready to join us in. And, I think that's what, when it comes to our happiness, that's all we're here to do. And when people want to join us, they're welcome too, but we definitely don't need to make it their business, our business.
So, Bernie, it sounds to me like you were giving a good example of what Marguerite was saying in terms of being discerning about where someone is and how to respond in a meaningful way. So that's what I got.
And for the most part, he just wanted to be validated that his Christian belief system was okay. So, I didn't need to be disregard him. It's just kind of like, here's a question, how do you reconcile this? And we probably chatted for over 2 hours, and
Wow.
And I think he got tired of me.
You warmed down.
But Bernie, you planted seeds, so you don't know where those seeds are gonna fall or grow.
Yeah, and that's the best we can do.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
be that example and invite people to grow.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, I believe you were next.
Thank you, so fam. Bless. Oh, Uma needs something quick. Please, Uma.
Did he okay that?
Go ahead, Irma. If it's-
While you were talking, I changed because you had called me before him when you called it. So I'm trying to hold on to these two short sentences. One, be still and know that I am God. Well, great. Be happy and know that I am God. Be forgiving and know that I am God. They all just rushed in on me while you guys were talking, and that's so good. And I'm going to use them. And then during the last talk, I want to tell you, we had rabid Christians trying to help this lady. They were old friends. She was dying, whatever. They wouldn't let her talk about her guru or, And so I was talking to Jesus. I said, Lord, what about these? And I gave their names. And the Lord said, because they're Christians, and the Lord said, they're not setting a very good example, are they? And I laughed for 5 days. That was so compassionate. Because they weren't setting a very good example of loving Christians. Thank you.
So, so when you said, when you quoted, be still and know that I am God, it made me think of what Megan said earlier about being in presence. So anyway, so thank you. And let's see, Bill, there you are. You know, the pictures move around on the computer.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, because my hand went down.
Oh, do you still want to comment?
Of course, yes, please. So I was inspired to come talk just now when we were all talking about being the love, peace, joy, and being that. The thought came into my mind. It's like when someone's got their hands up, hair on fire, why not join them for a minute? Why just be all calm? So what if you add fuel to the fire? Nothing happens anyways, and it has no consequence. So why not have a little bit of energy fun? That was the first thought that came into my mind, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because of from last lessons, which I've been having an issue working on getting it my mind to believe it that sin has no consequence. That I added that to my daily mantra. You know, I have that daily mantra where I've got all these. I haven't added one to it for a long time, but I added this one at the end. There is no sin. It has no consequence. So I know also that most people that I would talk to, if I said to them, hey, sin has no consequence, they would say, you're the devil. You're promoting sin. And at the same time, my mind on this side is saying, well, if you do sin, it's fine. Like nothing happens. There is no consequence. So if someone's got their hands up and hair on fire, why not just get in the fire with them and have your hands up, hair on fire, and walk them through it all the way through it. And then maybe after an hour or 10 minutes or however long, you might have a way to have the spirit come through you and tell them something. There
So,
is what we're doing is we're just going to back off, let them be their hands on fire, hair on fire, and just have no reaction to it. Maybe that's best.
yeah, but see,
But if it,
okay, I want to interrupt you for a moment, Bill, because you say a
Yeah.
lot of things and then, you know, sometimes it could get lost. So in terms of joining them or not joining them, that's why going to our own guidance, going to the Holy Spirit is so important, because there's not one right answer. There's not going to be like, it's printed out, now say this, now do this. We have to go to our own guidance. Maybe at a certain moment for you, it's joining them. I'm not going to say no, you
yeah,
know? So
right.
so thank you for commenting.
Yeah, man.
Peter, I believe you were next.
Yeah. Bill, were you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to quickly circle back to my original comment and just the way I'm looking at this a little differently, which is why would I not want to give up my unhappiness? Right. And so, because I have a choice, I'm choosing. So I realize that if I give up my unhappiness, see, my unhappiness is the way I prove that the world has done something to me. It's a way that I prove that
You're a
I'm a victim of the world. Right. So if I give that up, and that's the lifeblood of the ego, is to be able to point fingers and say, you're guilty because look at how much you hurt me. But the other thing, and I shared this a few weeks ago, the other thing that unhappiness buys me, unhappiness is an attack on God. Now, the Course says this world was made as an attack on God. So I'm fulfilling that purpose that I gave the world. The ego's, that's the ego's purpose. The ego's purpose of the world is to attack God. But I also mentioned this a few weeks ago, you know, one of the ways I used to get back at my mother was to always be unhappy when I was around her, just so she knew how much she hurt me. Mm-hmm. Right. And I realized, and she said to me one day, she said, I know you're really angry at me, but you're only hurting yourself. And I was like, damn, she's right. But that was my insanity. You know, my insanity was try to punish somebody else with my unhappiness. And so I think that could be extended to my relationship with God. You know, I want to attack, and I will be miserable just to prove, you know, how horrible the world is, and ultimately, you know, how horrible God is. Just that's completely insane. Thanks.
Thank you. So, just briefly, um, in response to your question, why do we want to be unhappy? I was once asked, when do you feel more important, Miss Schleider, when you are happy or when you are unhappy? So for me, importance was a big part of my unhappiness. Like, it was all about me. So I'm willing to give that up now, I just want to say. So Megan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say it reminded me that the Course tells us that everything in the illusion we've called to us to help teach us. So whatever we're dealing with, it's our ability to respond to these things. They're gifts for us. So what we might think of as something that's challenging is we've called to us to challenge us and to allow us to have yet another crack at figuring out how to, with guidance, deal with these things and choose again. So in my practice for myself, that what I've been doing recently is asking for guidance with, I'll say to myself, this does not feel good, but I obviously have called it to myself. So exactly how can I see this without my ego? Please show me what it's for, because I know what nothing is for, and I know that all is for my good. And those things have really helped me out. I thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Megan. Jerry?
You know, we're getting into the the time of Lent and Easter, and I know that we'll be talking more about that, but just kind of as a preview, this is a free trailer that I just struck my mind. You know, there's a useful journey to the cross, and there's a useless journey to the cross. And Jeshua says that he took the last useless journey to the cross by enduring, quote unquote, the crucifixion. And he says in the Easter section of the text, let's you and I now join in the resurrection and focus on the ascension, the joy, the happiness of the Spirit, the freedom as we rise above the sin, guilt, and fear of the cross. You know, the old adage, please give up the wood. Yeah, please give up the cross. We need the wood. And all that came to my mind with this particular function is happiness. Now, there are various ways to exemplify happiness in the world and the body as the dream and the figure in the dream. I'm not, and I think it's been adequately explained that to go into detail as to the form is probably okay, but it's much more fruitful to go into the content, and that would be, as was said, the guidance that I received from the Holy Spirit. I will act as the hero in the dream appropriately when my mind is clear, in my right mind, as love, as resurrection, as forgiveness, as happiness. And it'll be demonstrated by example, not by lecture and so forth. I don't want to be a know-it-all. Been there, done that, and you know, you can only be right or happy, and I'm choosing more to be happy, and that's what we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. So one of the things that is coming across to me as this whole meeting is going on is the importance of our sharing our perception and our point of view. Because I just recently reminded myself that I can't possibly know every angle and every detail from, you know I have my point of view, but thank God I can welcome other people's point of view as I'm studying to see things accurately and honestly and truly. So anyway, I don't know if that was clear, but I hope it was. Would anybody at this point like to comment? I think there's some things in the chat if you want to take a look at the chat. So we have time for maybe a couple more comments. And we could go back and look at specific part of the lesson if we would like. So Sora, I see your hand.
Yeah, was it Jerry who just spoke?
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So what he said, I think is very important. It reminded me immediately of a lesson. 155, I'll step back and let him lead the way. The first line, there is a way of living in the world that is not here, although it seems to be. You do not change appearance, though you smile more frequently. Your forehead is serene, your eyes are quiet, and the ones who walk the world as you do recognize their own. And when we think of joy, like it's not my experience. It's not the same as elation, ha ha ha. But there's something does seep through, this quiet sense of peace, and certainty, and that's the demonstration. So that's all I wanted to add. It's a very powerful lesson, 155, by the way, if you ever get to it. If anybody, in their individual practice, like Stephanie, I started the lesson on day 1. So yeah, salvation comes from me is today's lesson. But something like this, it's just wow, it's like getting an injection of peace to enable me to just keep demonstrating that. That's all.
I think it was a great last comment, Sora, because I think you made clear that joy can look many different ways. The question is, what is in our heart? What is authentic? And then, then it can't go wrong if that's where it's coming from. So I really appreciate everybody's joining. I would like to read something to close. It's not exactly a prayer from the Course, but it is from the Course. And I want to say that it goes along with what Megan said. And Megan was one of the people that really has helped me focus in on what I'm going to read now. If you'd like to close your eyes, you may, or you don't have to. So this is from lesson 135. If I defend myself, I am attacked. What could you not accept if you but knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everybody again.
Yay. Can anyone tell me how to get to the chat?